Hey, you. We're back again. Thanks again for hanging out with me. It's Mickey, and today, the prosperity concept that I want to talk about in tonight's Night is really the strategic value of silence. So we're just going to kind of look at silence and how does silence help us in our prosperity journey. And, the number one thing is that, we have a lot of undigested life. And so this is that opportunity. And it's interesting. I was thinking about this. I got up in the night and I bought myself years ago. They still sell them, I think, but I bought it on Amazon. It looks like a little tiny tent that you put over yourself, and it's a sauna. And it is so skeptical that you're like, this is a piece of garbage. It's like wearing a little tent. It's a little box. And so I got up in the middle of the night, and that is like, if I'm not able to get to sleep or I'm feeling anxious or whatever, I literally go up into my office. And I have, during COVID, I turned the whole second floor of our house into an apartment. And so I get to go into a whole big creative workspace. And I have also, it all has remote control candles. So I get to go up there, I get to click on the candles, and I can get, and now I can get into my sauna. And this sauna looks like it is a piece of garbage. It really does, but it is so great. And I was thinking about the fact that I was going to write this yesterday, and then it woke me up to just remind me what silence was like. And so there I sit. It's probably 3:30, 4 o'clock in the morning, and here in the Midwest, that time of the day is black. There is nothing, and I live right in the city, so it is like nothing going on. So I got to really think about how healing it is, because it is a tool to stay present. It is really a lot to offer. So I'm coming to you with that mindset from that moment of me in the dark, alone with all these remote control clicky candles, and just thinking about how nice it is, because we are always like maximum input, right? News alerts, emails, social media, meetings, just relentless. It's relentless. And we are consistently consuming our life, but we rarely stop to actually digest it. And silence, I really need you to kind of pair that with, right, the ability to digest your life. And so there's a strategic value of silence and putting silence into your life. So I'm hoping that this is a night time for you, that you're going to think about this before you go to bed, that you take in a little extra silence for yourself, and really look at how to consciously design space, silent space for your success. And when I keep talking about this problem of undigested life, like, we all have it. And silence is like the strategic noise cancellation of your life. But it's also, right, we're here to do the prosperity, right? The ability to magnify. Well, when we look at amplification, right, what are we magnifying? When we're magnifying all of this static in our nervous system, man, it's cray-cray. So silence is that noise cancellation. It's the tool. It's the salve. It's the things that we can kind of put on to ourselves. And I remind people that, like, silence is also calmness. It's muting out the world. It's choosing to be unresponsive. Sometimes I'm secretive when I'm like that. I like to be a little secretive when I'm silent. And these are the fun parts of that. And, the world is full of a lot of the other stuff, right? It's not just the shouting and the loudness of the world. It's this little bit of like chitter chatter that's always going around. There's always a little bit of clacking, a little bit of whisperiness, a little bit of, prattle in the background. So don't think about just like, hey, this is so loud. I need to quiet it down. It isn't that it's audibly loud. It's sometimes that it's just so busy, and it just has this, it just has so much. It has so much. And so silence is a tool for you to cut all that static. And when we think about an undigested life, right, what do we have? We have heavy, anxious, emotional, mental residue of unprocessed stuff, conversations, decision, right? And this residue that kind of lingers in the background, it just clogs your system. And what it does do is it shrinks your capacity to magnify into new opportunities, because this other stuff is still clunking around in the back. So you want to kind of be able to hear all of the brilliance of your everyday life instead of processing yesterday's garbage. So the first strategic value of silence is it forces us to digest our life. It's a pause. And it's a pause that your system needs to categorize, to integrate, to discard. I mean, there's so much data going on daily, and it's every kind of data. Like, I don't have just one kind of data coming in, right? I have a pile of kids that I raised, and now I have grandkids, and now I got a house, and I got another house, and I got cars. Oh gosh, and I have a business, and I have all these clients, and I have all this stuff, and oh my gosh, and then I have an artistic stuff. I mean, the list goes on and on. So silence is like it's like the superpower weapon against stress, because silence is not a passive activity. You have to fight for silence. And, sometimes I will, like me with this crummy, square box. It is really a pile of garbage. You will laugh. I'm sure you will look it up on Amazon. But it looks like you're in a tiny square tent. It zips up. It's hilarious. But silence isn't passive, right? It is this big, big tool that we intentionally are going to disconnect from input. And sometimes you'll just do it for 5 minutes. But what happens when you actively do that, actively rest and digest, your parasympathetic system says, thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you. So if you are thinking like I'm coming down with something, if you're thinking like my brain is fried, whatever, you want to give your parasympathetic system a little gift of silence, a little gift of, stop producing cortisol for a minute, regulate your heart rate and move your brain from reactive to, right? The parasympathetic is also where your brain has to be creative and organized. So the reason you want to rest is because you'll just be a better organized mind. You'll be a more creative mind. So the physical and mental rest is your competitive advantage. So if you are a high achiever and you are trying to do stuff, I am telling you, and the stats are with me on this, that having physical and mental rest is a competitive advantage. You cannot lead, you cannot magnify prosperity if you're always like hyper aroused and you're in this stressed state. So silence is the maintenance that's required for high performance, but it's also the maintenance that's required for having a meaningful life. So today I'm just gonna go through like the 3 big kinds of strategic silence. And it's not just the absence of sound. It is the intentional creation of space. So that's when I'm talking about silence, I'm really looking at that. Mute, and we don't have people, we don't have music, we don't even have an internal dialogue, right? Mindful isolation isn't punishment. I just need you to know that. It's not punishment. It's an energetic recalibration. And what is interesting is that when most people start to do it, they instantly fall asleep because they are just so tired from their life. So if you go, oh, I'm just going to sit here and really be by myself and not have any music on and just be here in silence, most everyone falls asleep because they are exhausted. And the idea also is to be able to go somewhere and just practice 30 minutes in a day, preferably in the middle of the day, to not consume anything, to just listen to the silence and not do anything else. And this is not a punishment. I just need to keep reminding you, this is not a punishment. So there's also this other piece of silence that I bring up for people, which is verbal silence, which is your silence is an interaction. So sometimes it's about not speaking, holding your position. And it means not speaking immediately or not giving a position right away, especially if you're in a high stakes conversation. And this is a lot easier to do. So, number one, auditory silence, right? But number two is verbal silence. And you actually get really good at verbal silence when you've practiced number one. So you want to start kind of layering these things in. And when a question is asked or a conflict arises, you have a trained response to jump in and solve it. We're going to hold court right now. But strategic verbal silence really allows others to kind of figure it out. It gives you a chance to let them reveal their true position, or you let them fill the space. And so when I'm withholding immediate judgment, this goes back to the lessons on witness, right? There's a lot of layers in this conversations from other previous lessons. But withholding your immediate judgment or solution, you actually increase your influence and you magnify the space. You magnify the space for wisdom to emerge, because whether it's from the group or the situation itself. And this is a true leadership move, is just hold up. You do not have to solve it immediately. And that is actually, we see this a lot when people are jumping up from management, solve, to leadership, lead. This is a really big lesson to learn. And then the third thing that I want to kind of put in today's conversation is judgmental silence. And it is this is the hard one, but it's also the most powerful part, which is it is the conscious choice to stop the instant labeling or reacting to your own thoughts or feelings or reacting to somebody else's thoughts or feelings. And so this goes back to some of the things that we've talked about in the past around witness, around judgment, but you really want to just observe and not immediately magnifying it by labeling it. Judgment silence is really just allowing that space. It's recognizing the thought without attaching a judgment to it. So silence is allowing space and magnifying the space in our mind for insights or for it to wander or for deep processing to occur without the stress of this instant categorization. And that is like where you're healing that frantic need to control. So let me just say it again, because it's a really big deal. Silence is allowing space for the magnification of space in your mind. So silence allows and it magnifies. And that allows this thing to happen where you can have deeper processing without this weird stress of instantly categorizing and judging, because now your brain went another way. It doesn't actually let your brain go, oh, let's just let this filter in. And when you practice silence in a long period of time, you have this over time healing that's kind of great. That's why people who love meditation, because it heals this frantic need that we don't always understand, but boy, do we have it. And so I remind people that this is a strategic matter. This is part of your architecture of your prosperity mindset, and recognizing that stillness is movement. When we choose silence, we're not being lazy or passive. You're making a high leverage choice to make things more possible. And when you're using discernment to intentionally create spaciousness, you will have more space for the magnitude of your vision. And so I really want you to think about how much time you spent in silence. And if you are feeling kind of uncomfortable in silence, because we have a lot of undigested life, everybody values from this. And when people get kind of jittery about being silent, that's a message too, right? That your nervous system is just tired. So it's not passive. Silence is not passive, but it is a way to activate the parasympathetic nervous system, the rest and digest mode. And this is a deliberate physiological shift. It's going to lower your hormone cortisol. It's going to regulate your heart rate, but it moves the brain out of this survival mode, out of reaction, and it engages the sympathetic, right? It engages the sympathetic nervous system to be able to be more creative and organized. So you'll get more out of it. And I do believe it's your competitive advantage. So we've got three kinds. We've got auditory, right? Where we just, right? It's not punishment. It's an energetic recalibration. And you just want it 30 days. Your verbal silence, holding your position, and that holding your position is there to magnify the space. That's what people don't understand, is that you actually get more by saying less. And then the judgment part of silence. So silence is allowing space and magnifying that space. So that's what I want you to take away today. So I hope you have a good night. I hope you sleep well. And I always like hanging out with you. If I don't get to see you live, because I always love to like give you a big hug and just see your smiling face. That's always my favorite. But if I can't see you there, I'm super glad to see you here. And thanks for showing up for yourself. And have a good night. All right. Night, night.